You don't feel anything. I wish somebody told me that. I thought it was going to be in excruciating pain doing my first injection. Vigorous Steve here. I thought I'd make a quick video of what injections actually feels like. I don't think anybody has ever discussed that. It's something I wish I knew when I started dabbling with performance-enhancing drugs and did my first injection, because I was nervous AF. I was really, really nervous. You have no idea what pain you're going to experience shoving that 1.5 inch needle in your quad or glute or wherever else, right? We all have our favorite administration sites. Personally, I prefer my glutes or my lats nowadays. But back then, my hand was not very steady doing my first injection. So I decided to pin my upper quad. I went through many different sources online to figure out what the best administration place was within the quadriceps, which turned out to be not so favorable in my case, because I got knotted up, even though it was pharmaceutical grade, what I used at the time for my first cycle. But because it was virgin muscle, and I put that injection right dead in the middle of the quad, pinning from the side. Unfortunately, I can't show it to you guys, right? YouTube has some restrictions, so we're trying to abide by the rules here, and just, you're going to have to make a mental note of everything that I'm going to discuss in this video, right? No visual representation, because I don't think that's allowed. So I did my first injection in the quad, coming in from the right side, injected 0.5 cc. And of course, the post-injection pain was horrible because it is virgin muscle. The muscle will get used to this injection volume over time. But each site will have a little duration of approximately 4 to 6 weeks where it is kind of tender and sore after administrations for, let's say, 3 days to 5 days. Now, that is something that goes away with time, so you'll have to persist through that. Ideally, if I had a time machine and go back in time now, I would look a little bit more into glute administrations because, well, that's the last place your significant other is going to see that you did an administration, similar to the guys at the gym. Because if you did a quad injection or shoulder injection, which is even worse, you're going to have a lump. And if you do a quad injection, you're going to be moving a little bit more difficult. So this is something I could highly advise to anybody still thinking about running anabolic androgenic steroids. Before you get your hands dirty, learn how to do glute injections. If you don't have the flexibility to reach all the way back there, practice your flexibility first so you can do them uninterrupted and you don't cramp your obliques or your rear delts or whatever else. Right, that's the best place to administer gear. That's the best place and the last place where people are going to notice that you did an administration. And it's also the easiest regarding the injection volume because the glutes is quite a large muscle. Most of us are not going to do severe hyperextensions or reverse hyperextensions to the point an upper glute injection is going to be cumbersome in particular exercises that we perform, unlike a quad injection or shoulder injection, which might limit your range of motion or prevent you from walking properly, right? So that's the post-injection pain aspect of it and the visibility aspect of it. Piercing the skin hurts. That hurts. It will be the same as a mosquito bite. It's almost unnoticeable. Now, with the glutes, obviously there's some fat tissue, so you won't be able to see the little spider veins or micro veins that run throughout the surface, the adipose tissue or the subcutaneous space of where you're going to inject. There's a thicker vein on the side of your glute that runs over the ventral glute on the side of your body, right, on both sides. That should be easy to pinpoint if you're about 10%, 12% body fat even. But all the little microveins you won't be able to see. So when you hit a microvein, you will experience a little bit of pain. But you won't experience much pain, not any significant pain, piercing the skin. And once the needle goes into skeletal muscle, you don't feel anything. I wish somebody told me that. I thought it was going to be in excruciating pain doing my first injection. And as this needle went into my body very, very slowly with a shivering hand, right, holding that needle with 2 hands to make it as steady as possible, the only pain I experienced is when the needle pierced the skin, past a little vein, and then from that point onwards, it was all smooth sailing. So I was able to hold this needle syringe steady, right, and then slowly inject to the point that all the carrier oil ended up in my skeletal muscle, turning into an injection depot. Then I slowly removed the needle, which is also painless, unless you pierce a little bit of a bigger vein, and the needle is actually blocking this vein, the blood flow through the vein, so the blood will build up behind the needle, and as soon as you remove the needle, guess what? It's a samurai movie, and this blood will shoot out because a little bit of pressure built behind it. And if you have a white couch with fabric, not leather, a fabric that can absorb liquid, you are fucked. That's what happened to me. My first injection, a little bit of pain. The injection was smooth. I took the needle out and a little bit of blood built up behind the needle in this blood vessel, shooting out as soon as I removed the needle. That blood stain is still there. You can't get it out, dude. Blood on white fabric, impossible to remove. How are you going to explain this to the people that are coming to your house? All right, a little bit of caution is advised. This might happen once in a blue moon, but it is a possibility. A little bit of bleeding is to be expected. In most cases than not, it will just bleed, streak down your glutes, your quads, your lat, wherever else you inject it. But it is of note that sometimes this builds up and literally shoots out like it's a samurai movie, squirting blood all over the place. So be prepared, right? Have some tissues handy because you might have to clean up after yourself. The last thing you might be able to experience a little bit of pain is when you're injecting and you nick a nerve. Now, you're not exactly nicking a nerve because the nerves are so small, way smaller than blood vessels, that you're probably just pushing it away. So you might get a little bit of a muscle twitch or a micro cramp that lasts half a second where the muscle contracts because you're nicking this nerve, causing a central nervous system response and a little bit of a signal. And you get a little bit of a twitch, a jump scare, so to say. Now, if that happens to you, don't be alarmed. It's just part of the game, just like a little bit of blood flow is part of the game after you're piercing the skin with very sharp objects. That is just something you'll have to get used to, something you'll have to deal with. It's not something that is going to cause severe post-injection pain or inflammation or redness. That has to do with the quality of the product that you administered. We're simply talking about potential mishaps or things you can expect if you're thinking about starting anabolic androgenic steroids. A little bit of post-injection pain is warranted. A little bit of pain at the skin or the subcutaneous space or piercing a blood vessel is to be expected. You might get a little bit of a twitch if you're passing a nerve on the way down. So all in all, the injection process is rather pain-free. It doesn't really hurt. You might experience a little bit of pain when piercing the skin, comparable to a mosquito bite or removing a nose hair, for example. Feel free to practice that. You get a pair of tweezers, you pull out a nose hair. That's probably more pain than you're going to experience from an anabolic androgenic steroid administration. And unless you're using an 18 gauge, but I think most of us would prefer a 1 inch to 1/2 inch 25 gauge needle or 27 gauge needle if you're injecting a solution based on MCT oil. And it's a little bit more viscous, so it allows for it to go through a 27 gauge needle, whether that's 1 inch or 1/2 inch. And they're very thin, a little bit fragile, so I'm always a little bit inclined not to use them because they look so brittle. I'm afraid they're going to break. And that pretty much sums it up. So I hope it was helpful. Again, injections is not really a big deal, to be honest. I find that giving blood, right, piercing that thick needle into a vein is actually more painful and feels a lot more horrible for the 2 minutes or 5 minutes that they need to draw blood. I mean, my blood work is always extensive, so sometimes they need to draw like 10 tubes. That takes a minute or 10. So that's highly uncomfortable. It is quite painful sometimes after they're switching the tubes. And all of the administrations that I've done over the last 10 years, 11 years that I've been using performance-enhancing drugs, I think maybe once or twice did I feel the need to abort because I nicked something that was, I don't know, too painful to bear. Maybe once in a blue moon or whatever, right? Occasional mishaps that can happen but don't happen too frequently. What you should be mostly worried about of what you're actually injecting into your body, whether that's the anabolic androgenic steroids or injectable SARMs or obscure peptides, whatever, right? That you have to worry about. not necessarily the injection and delivery method itself. There's not much that can go wrong unless you really don't understand human biology and start jabbing random body parts, right? You still have to do a little bit of research on which areas of particular skeletal muscle groups are acceptable to be used as an injection depot. And once you got some fundamental understanding of that, very little can go wrong. Very little can go wrong, assuming you're sticking with pharmaceutical grade compounds or properly brewed and sterile underground labs. I'll leave it at that. I hope it was helpful. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're looking for the most comprehensive guides to bodybuilding pharmacology, you can find the ebooks on my website, vigoroussteve.com/shop. Personalized advice always available through consultations. You can find the rates in the consultation section. Contact me directly if you're interested. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at VigorSteve. Have a look at my workout clips YouTube channel called Vigorous to the Max. Direct link down below in case you're interested in crazy hard working sets so you can get inspired before you go to the gym on your next session. Vigorous crew, you guys know what to do. A front double bicep for you guys. Clearly, I'm not afraid of doing administrations, but I used to be. But I got over it. And now it's just part of the game. It's like brushing my teeth, part of the morning ritual. I brush my teeth. I do my administrations. Then I do my fasted cardio. And then the day is started. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I'll see you in the next one.